but that's where I think it's going, is like the execution component. And I like highlighting different case studies. So when people reach out to me, and if you're listening, you want to come on the podcast and you're agency owner, I'd love to hear how you're using it, how you're thinking about it. What are the mental models and the frameworks that you're using to put this all together? Because you have all these different siloed systems and trying to get them to connect. And like, we're working on a new org chart right now, Chris, where we have 2 AI employees integrated on the work chart. And what do we give them access to? And, what are their jobs, and defining their duties? And like, I mean, that's an amalgamation of what we learned in EOS and Agile. And like, so I just have like a hats off to marketers that I think that sometimes they get put in a category of like this, but to be able to do that, they have to know everything, especially SEO. You have to know everything. And so I think that there's going to be a elevation of people that understand how the algorithms work, and programmers that can articulate this knowledge to executives are going to be elevated into the room, into the boardroom, into the conversations, because they're the ones that have the data. They're the ones that have the knowledge and the know-how to make this stuff happen. And I think that there's going to be a huge transformation of what it means to be an agency or a firm in the space, and how they work with businesses. And, again, there's going to be a tail on that as well. And there's going to be a lot of people that probably don't change fast enough, but the people that are listening to this podcast are the people that are making those changes and those steps. And you have to grow, and you have to learn like anything else. And it's like almost taking like system thinking and becoming like a programmer brain to take that into operations and marketing. And so there's so many different disciplines that you have to learn to make it all fit together. For me, like I'm a little bit idea-phoria, and so I love it. And then I have great people that I can take that and hand it to, like Shantae or Jeff, and just like, go put this together, operationalize it, train the team, and get it pushed out there. And we've been bringing on a number of new people. We've hired 4 people in the last month. And so there's a lot of great things we're doing over at EWR. I don't promote it enough. Go check it out. We are open to sponsors now. I didn't want to take on sponsors when I was going through the Goldman program, but we are open to sponsors that align with like these core goals. Like one of the things we just landed on the other podcast was actually from like a hiring standpoint, like a hiring grading standpoint, utilizing AI like a grader. But yeah, like, I mean, there's so many different ways to look at this, but where I see everything going is kind of like a connected worker that understands how to use all these tools, and that maybe started in marketing, but branches out into a lot of other things. And Chris, I'm sharing this for the first time with the audience, and you and I like have these great lunches, and like we go deep in all these different ways. But I really feel like this call is like coming full circle, because I remember when you like, I was a consultant and you like hired me, and and then I was like, it was like 3 months in, and I was like, I'm writing a book. Do you want to tell that story? Because
well, here's what I know about that story. At one point, I don't know if we'll call it a Tuesday, Matt's like, hey, I'm writing a book. Would you write the foreword to the book? And I was like, yeah, okay. In my head, it was like, yeah, we got months. He's got to write a book. Like, I'm happy to do that. And then I think on Friday, he was like, yeah, I'm going to need that foreword because the book's already done. And like, we were in the middle of kind of a turnaround in EWR. So in the middle of this turnaround, which is, stressful and lots of hours, he's also writing a book. So yeah, you tend to kind of go all in when you're, when you set goals and then accomplish them really quickly. So it's really cool.
Well, the book was really just documenting the turnaround efforts.
Yeah.
For anybody that wants to read it, it's really like my story of like coming into this and seeing from my eyes, like inside of an agency, and what are the different components and how all those things work, and documenting, because I was learning so much. The only way I know how to like remember everything that I learn is to like write it down on paper. And so I
Yeah.
love to document stuff. And now I love to use AI to recall what I'm learning. And that's the big area for that we haven't talked about. And I am going to bring on a buddy of mine that's heavy and has a bunch of patents in this space, is memory.
Mm.
Okay. Memory, long-term perpetual memory, to remember the right kind of things. And like, think about it. Like when we go to sleep, Chris, bringing it back to health, when we go to sleep, I believe like our brain is taking all the information we've learned and compressing it and processing it and then storing it
Yep.
into long-term memory from short-term memory. And that's why it's important to sleep, to kind of process that session. And AI is not like exactly like a map of the brain, but it works pretty similar to how kids learn and processes learn with all the different nodes of when you build a LLM. But remembering something and remembering the right thing, and not remembering like weighting the memory and the judgment, like how to map all that is I think like the next big thing, right? And I saw that even with ChatGPT 4 to 5, which a lot of people were unhappy about because it had perpetual memory, and then it was turned off, and then people went to other models. But it's like it gets fixated on one thing that you've been talking about recently, because there's a decay in the memory, and it just you know will focus on that thing completely. And then people say like AI gets obsessed with certain things, but it's about a waiting and a decay process. And again, it goes back to governance of how you use this stuff, and how you need to have different sessions, and how you need to bring in the information and the recall. And like, even if you're like training it like with different skills, like what skills supersede other skills. So if you're building a company, well, if there's a standardized way of doing things, and then you have a personalized way of doing things, the company way maybe should supersede that in certain indices, unless you break that rule. Like, you got to think through all this stuff, but that's for another call, everybody. Hopefully you've enjoyed this hour. I do have a hard stop, and we gotta get going, but Chris, we'll definitely have you back on.
I'll add one
Yeah.
quick point on my podcast. So Live Beyond the Norms, please go check it out. I interviewed Randall Cohen. He is the founder of Carbon Copies organization. So their mission is to take the brain and stick it in silica. And he's been working and focusing on this for a long time. Fascinating interview. Just had parallels with what you were talking about, like kind of memory storage.
Well,